So I'm sitting here with Sean Witt from Netherlands. I've been in touch with you on pictures on Facebook and seen huge bikes, and you had some performance here together with Pontus.
Yeah.
And my first question was, of course, I've seen a couple of pictures earlier from you with huge fish, and still you are headed to Sweden to catch even bigger ones. So why do you start coming to Sweden?
Well, it started off with the closed season in the Netherlands. You know, in April and May, you're not allowed to fish for predator fish, so for pike, you're not allowed to fish on them as well. The normal choice is to go in the closed season in the Netherlands, go to Sweden to fish for pike. But then you see the possibilities for pike fishing in Sweden, and compared to how you fish in the Netherlands to pike, it gives you all kinds of new options to fish for pike and target the larger ones as well. So that combined with culture and nature in Sweden is one thing that makes me go to Sweden very often each year. This year will be like 9 times, I think, that I'm going to Sweden. So I was talking to Andy about, getting a Swedish passport because I'm half a Swede almost. But I just love it over here. And compared to the Netherlands, with you fish in a lot of waters with close to the city or into the city itself. A lot of waters are not really fishable, if you can call it like that, with vegetation and such, and high water temperatures. And Sweden is the water is more clean, more wide. You can fish with planer boards, but you can fish on structures and such stuff you can't do in the Netherlands actually. So that's the main reason.
The main thing I was hooking up from your performance on stage was that you were talking about a lot of vegetation in the Netherlands, and you said you are fishing pretty big baits just in a couple of feet of water.
The upper water column, as high as possible.
And if you compare that to the lakes you are fishing in Sweden, you said it's a lot of it's more water to cover compared to how it is in Netherlands. Do you see that as an obstacle for you to change your tactics, or how do you see it compared? How do you spin fish or do you troll?
We do both. In the spring, I do a lot of spin fishing because to me it's the most fun thing to do. The visual strikes, but the constant game of searching and finding the fish. But in June, July or August in Sweden we usually go trolling, and then the game is also about finding the fish. But the things we use in the Netherlands, like fishing really high in the upper water column, is something we do in Sweden as well, and it's been really successful for us as well. And yesterday I was talking to someone after the performance on the stage about fishing and why we fish so high in the upper water column. And I don't know if you can remember you got the infographics about depth finders and such, how they work, and how deeper you go, the more detail you see on the fish finder. That's the same thing with fishing high in clear water as well. I made the example of hanging something in the hall where this show is going at the moment. If you put something and you hang it 2 meters or 1 meter above the floor, then you can't see it from where we're sitting if it's over there. But if you put it up on the ceiling, the fish can actually see it. So it's all about getting noticed, and that combined with big baits and slow fishing can really improve the results, because you find more fish that are actively or going for the bait, because more fish can actually see the bait. So that's the idea.
And that's interesting, because every time I see with a big pike, you have also an extremely large lure in the pike's mouth. And compared to Sweden, where we have started to downsize a lot, because many of the Swedes go down to Rügen and fish. So the Swedes go down and you go up. And we meet halfway. So when they're in Rügen, a lot of the guides there, when they have tough time to find the fish, they downsize, but you have find a solution, or you make it work with extremely large baits.
It's a combination of things. Sometimes we notice that smaller baits work better than larger baits. But the thing we notice usually is that you get more fish using smaller baits. But when you go selective for the bigger ones, then we found that often on very hard days, where the fishing is slow and fish aren't really active, then a large prey or a large bait provokes more strikes. If the fish are not into it, but they see something that's going slow, it's easy to grab, and it's a big meal, that could be the final push that they need to actually go for it and cross the distance from several meters deep to go up and actually take it. So yeah.
And why do you are in a specific part of Sweden? How come that? Is it some place in Sweden you want to go to, or is it you want to stay focused on the area where you are right now to find even better lakes or find the know the lake more? How are your thoughts?
I've been fishing there for like 12 years, I think, in the area of Dalsland. You get more numbers. It's fun to do, spin fishing, catch a lot of numbers, but the average size of the fish is usually smaller than it is in Dalsland and Värmland. And that combined with the fact you got Vänern, which is a really cool place to fish in because you got so many options. You got so many islands, small inner lakes, etc. But you can also go to the larger inner lakes and have a completely different kind of fishery over there. But
do you have like lakes in the Netherlands where you can fish, or is it just the canals and in the cities?
You got a lot of big lakes, and one thing that we mentioned before about the vegetation, which is becoming actually a problem in the Netherlands. There's a European regulation that the water needs to fulfill some kind of standard. So they hired commercial fishermen to fish for brim, and they started to clean up. Well, something's falling down over there. They started to clean up stuff, so the water is getting clearer and clearer. But as a result, the vegetation is growing as well. So you got a lot of lakes that you can fish in June, but in July and August and September it's impossible to fish because there's so much vegetation, and you need to adapt. And you can go weedless or you can go fish really high, but it doesn't work in every time, And the vegetation is really a problem. It's becoming a problem that actually the recreational boating, people that drive the boat on a Sunday and want to go out. Yeah. It's impossible to drive a boat in some parts.
Because it's too much vegetation.
It's really becoming a problem. So I sincerely hope, and I see in Sweden as well, that the vegetation each year is growing and growing as well, probably because of the higher temperatures and stuff. Fingers